You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf, and you are watching Logically Left right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, all the usual platforms that you can find the show. So, look, I got a really great show today. A lot of details here, a lot of stories. We're going to talk about Dr. Antifa. Okay. Sounds like it could have been a fun story, but it actually kind of isn't. But there is a good resolution to it, I suppose. So that's something to be thankful for in these dark times. We also have bad news. We've got a rural California county that is having the day they voted for. And it's not good. About 30,000 people are no longer have a local hospital. So we told you that this was going to happen. Now it's happening, and it's a disaster. We also have a MAGA mom begging House Speaker Mike Johnson to help her out, do her a solid, and actually vote to pay the military. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. I got the video here. Ice Barbie has got a new propaganda video out, and it's being shown all over airports. And then finally, Tommy Tuberville, religious freedom for me, but not for thee. So, again, I've got a lot of great stories here, but before I get to that, I do have to change some things. Okay. Yes, I have to put in some new images that I forgot to do when I was prepping the show. So, oops. You know how we do these things, right? Shoestring budget, for one, because that's, again, how we roll here. And also, we'll
do it live!
We'll do it live. We're always doing it live. Except for yesterday, I guess. Because I didn't do it live. But I did put out some content, so if you haven't checked it out already, please do. After the show. Okay. All right, that's it. We're going to move into it, but please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. Those of you who are watching here, by the way, hey, the weather has finally dropped to a more October feeling. It's true. It's true. Feels nice. Finally. Okay. All right. With that said, let's start out with the big story here. One of the big stories. You know what? I also forgot to put my sidebars up. So that's awesome. I'm just like, I'm 2 for 2 today. You got a twofer. Okay. of just me not being prepared for some reason, even though I got up very early and started very early today. Yeah, not that I don't start early every day, but earlier than usual, and I still made some massive F ups. So once again, we're doing it live, folks. We're doing it live. This is what happens when I try to get everything done and forget. Oops. It's,
USA, USA, USA.
Look, this is how you know that we are not we are true independent progressive media, everybody. Not funded by big corporations or big groups. No dark money here. If we had dark money, I'd probably have a team that would stop me from making these kinds of very rookie mistakes. And that's what's going on here. But anyway, let's do it. Now I'm prepared. Would you look at that? One more time from everybody.
We'll do it live!
Okay. A university professor dubbed Dr. Antifa had actually tried to flee the country after receiving numerous death threats from unhinged MAGA chuds and had been temporarily prevented from leaving. What is going on here? Now, this is Mark Bray, who is a historian of modern Spain and the world, and he was stopped at the gate in the New Jersey airport and was told that his reservation, his flight reservation, had been canceled mysteriously. He didn't cancel it, obviously. And so he and his family, for a little bit, were stuck. Now, what's going on? Well, Bray had taught in Rutgers University's history department in New Jersey until the Turning Point USA chapter had tried to get him canceled. They were doing the cancel culture on him. Why? Why the cancel culture? I'll get to that. Now, the petition filed by Turning Point USA said that we believe in free speech and the First Amendment. However, this does not mean that one is free from the consequences of their actions. Consequences for what? What exactly did this professor do that warranted him getting not only threatened, but also to have Turning Point USA try to cancel him? Well, back in 2017, Bray published a book. Oh my God, a book. Oh no. Wait. Let me find it.
Oh no!
Okay, there we go. This book was titled Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. Now hold on here. The book, if you read it, it actually explores the movement's philosophy and their history, and is based on interviews with other anti-fascists, which should be most people. Now, he had also taught a course on the history of anti-fascism. Okay, apparently that is more than enough to earn the ire of MAGA chuds. So, now, let me just say that if someone being against fascism makes you blindingly angry enough to threaten to murder them, you might want to think about why. I'm just saying. You might want to think about why. This man, I mean, he's an educator, okay? And he's just, which means he just teaches people things, okay? He instructs them, educates them. But now, apparently that's bad, okay? That's bad now in America, so you can't do that. We don't do that here, okay? We don't want to do that here. Educating people,
Can't let that happen.
Okay. I cannot help but feel that this country is cooked. Okay. I'm just saying. Now, Bray spoke to the New York Times shortly before his flight to Spain and said this: I've never been a part of an Antifa group, and I'm not currently. There's an effort underway to paint me as someone who is doing the things that I've researched, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay. Look, Antifa isn't an organization that has like a headquarters or a leadership or structure or anything like that. Antifa is anarchist at its core. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing, okay? Anarchy is literally the polar opposite of fascism. No gods, no masters, no kings, just people working together voluntarily in common cause. Again, not a bad thing, right? But anyway, Bray had written in his book, he wrote his book. He taught this class about anti-fascism, and now, thanks to the right wing, have a target on his back, especially after the murder of Charlie Kirk, and Trump designating Antifa as a domestic terror organization, which is ridiculous. His killer, by the way, had nothing to do with anti-fascism. Okay. Oh yeah, well, what about the bullet casings then? They had memes on them. Gaming memes, specifically. And not just gaming memes, by the way. There was also online furry roleplay. Okay? For example, notices bulges. Ooh, what's this? Written on a bullet. Okay? I mean, that's not related to anti-fascism at all. Oh yeah? Well, what about the bullet that was written with, "Hey, fascist, catch." Haha, that must be Antifa, right? No, it's actually a Helldivers 2 reference, because you had the 3 Dawn arrows that basically called in I believe it was a nuclear strike in that game. Well, what about Bella Ciao? Okay, that's an anti-fascist song. Yes, it is. But it also became part of the pop culture when it was resurfaced due to the television series Money Heist and the game Hearts of Iron. I believe that's Hearts of Iron 4 and Far Cry 6. Okay? So, I'm just saying. A lot of memes here, okay? And then finally, of course, he wrote, if you read this, you're gay. Okay, fun. These are memes. They basically mean nothing. What Robinson was doing, I believe, was edgelording and memeing, okay? Yeah, just something that people will do on certain forums online, okay? None of that, by the way, stopped MAGA from trying to pin this entirely on the left and on Antifa, which again, no ties. And so, of course, this guy, dubbed Dr. Antifa, gets caught up in the proverbial crosshairs and decides, I'm going to get out while I can. Okay. Again, after receiving death threats, which included one threatening to unalive him in front of his students. Not good. And his address had also been leaked on social media. And so, of course, that's very, very serious. Very serious stuff. Okay. Now, of course, when he tried to leave, as I mentioned before, his flight got canceled somehow on the same day that Donald Trump hosted a White House roundtable focused on Antifa. Yeah. He said, somebody canceled my family's flight out of the country at the last second. Bray posted on BlueSky, adding, we got our boarding passes, we checked our bags, went through security, then at our gate, our reservation disappeared. That is pretty terrifying. Okay, and even worse, by the way, is the White House response to this. When asked, they told the Times that, quote, oh yeah, well, we have examples of Democrat violence that are plentiful. Okay, where are they? Did you provide any examples, sir or madam? No, of course not. Look, I'm not saying that the left has never done violence before. Of course they have. It's pretty rare, though, and not close to the amount of right-wing political violence or violence from Islamic extremism, as I'm going to show you here. There it is. You've got murders and politically motivated terrorism, which excludes 9/11. So now this actually this is data from the Cato Institute. Yeah, the right-wing Cato Institute. Showing politically motivated terrorism, excluding 9/11, the inclusion of which throws the numbers way off, because in reality, politically motivated terror attacks in the United States are actually quite rare. That said, next chart picks up in 2020 a little bit, still not gigantic, and as you can see, dominated by right-wing extremism. And so there it is. There it is. Yeah. That said, the good news is Bray was able to leave without issue, and he is now safely in Europe. And he is not the first professor to have left this country after Donald Trump assumed power. 3 of them, by the way, 3 professors who also study authoritarianism had left back in March. Now, I know that it's just leaving, that's leaving the country, right? But you also have people who have decided to move in the country to other states. About 1 in 4 professors in the South are actually considering leaving the states of Texas, Florida, and South Carolina and heading up to safer blue states. So what's going on here is a literal brain drain going on in places that need this kind of education the most. But they're all being forced to leave because now they fear for their safety. You've got Republicans passing laws and defunding education, targeting people for just being professors, part of academia. And look, I don't blame them for leaving, but I do know that this will have some ramifications. It's not going to make anything better. In fact, it's probably going to make things worse when you have this lack of people, this lack of educators now in certain parts of the country. I mean, a lack of education is partly how we've gotten here, okay? You have a lack of trust in academia, in our institutions now, a lack of trust in factual information, and an increased trust in paid social media influencers who spread falsehoods and misinformation for clicks. So all of this leads to a situation which is actually quite detrimental and personally terrifying. And it's definitely not good for the long-term viability of a country. Not good. Not good at all. Okay. Moving on here. Wow, that took longer than I thought it would. So here we go. Denizens of a rural county of around 30,000 people are not happy after Trump's big beautiful bill basically forced the closure of their only hospital. So this is the Glenn Medical Center, which served the far northern reaches of California's Sacramento Valley as the only hospital in that county. Now, on September 30th, that hospital ended up closing after 75 years of service. So what exactly happened? Well, this year, the federal government decided to eliminate something called the critical access designation for that hospital, which is a special status for hospitals that helps to ensure access to emergency health care in certain rural communities. So CMS, which was being run by Dr. Oz, had determined that the hospital no longer met distance requirements for that designation. So critical access facilities must be more than 35 miles from the nearest hospital. So this one is, I guess, depending on the route that you use, they determine that, oh yeah, no, you're too close. You're about 32 minutes away. So no, close, you gotta close. So the result of this, of course, is that tens of thousands of people will now have to travel more than 30 miles to get emergency medical care. Again, we're talking about emergency situations here where every minute counts. Okay, strokes, heart attacks, things like that. Okay, every second counts. And now you're just closing the hospital. It's like, you can drive 30 minutes. Oh, okay. Oh, lovely. Now, according to Rick Thomas, the vice mayor of Willows, the Glenn County city where the hospital was located, quote, "It's a tragedy that you're going to leave 30,000 people without readily access to an emergency room." Yeah, that's it. That's what's going on. And it's a huge problem, obviously. And by the way, hospitals, rural hospitals, there's been a funding problem for quite some time. But now it's getting much and much worse. Okay? It's getting much worse. In fact, nearly 200 rural hospitals have closed since 2005, and about a third, more than 700, are at risk of permanently shutting their doors, depriving people of access to a hospital, to healthcare. And why is that? Less money. They don't have as much money coming in. Why? Well, in the rural areas, there's a couple of reasons. Smaller population, obviously. So, not getting as much money from services, right? Not only that, but you have insurance reimbursement rates that are no longer enough to cover all their costs. Again, not good, right? Not good. But what makes this situation worse is because of Trump's big, beautiful bill that congressional Republicans passed. Trump signed into law. Now, that makes massive cuts to the Medicaid program, about $1 trillion. Okay? Gone. Just out of the program. Out of the program. Now, by the way, none of that money went to undocumented immigrants. Okay? Undocumented immigrants do not get Medicaid. Okay? So that money is for Americans. But it's no longer there. $1 trillion cut out. Gone. So low-income rural Americans and rural hospitals are losing out. Okay? They're just losing out now. Look, as of May of 2025, approximately 2,086 rural hospitals received $12.2 billion a year in net revenue from Medicaid. But now, as a result of that big, beautiful bill, they're going to be receiving much less because states now have to figure out where are we going to get the money to fund these hospitals from. Okay? They were already hanging on by a thread. The average operating margin for a rural hospital was about 3.1% in 2023. You actually had about 44% of rural hospitals that operated with a negative margin, meaning that they were running in the red. They were not making enough money to be able to operate. And now it's gotten much worse. This hospital in Glenn County was one of the 300 rural hospitals that were identified as, before the Big Beautiful Bill was passed, as having an immediate risk of closure. But hey, congressional Republicans, and Trump said, well, tax cuts for the rich were far more important than funding rural hospitals. And so there you go. There you go. And what's interesting here is one of the people who voted for it, State Republican Representative Doug LaMalfa, is now furious that the hospital is closed. He said, I am deeply frustrated about this decision. We're hung out on a technicality. The technicality being the way that they calculated the critical access designation, which, again, the hospital had previously qualified for. Now, Lisa Pruitt, a professor and rural law expert at UC Davis School of Law, said of this, quote, the funding for lots of hospitals is actually pretty fragile, but with rural hospitals, it's kind of like a house of cards. And now all these different funding streams, the critical access being one of them, that are not local, if you've already got a fragile house of cards, you take away one of them, it means that the facility is lost. And there you go. Now, LaMalfa said that, man, I tried to talk to Dr. Oz. I tried to get him to reconsider but I was not successful. Oh, no kidding. In fact, he said of this, quote, "This is not how government is supposed to operate. It's unfair and just plain wrong. I refuse to believe that CMS's hands are tied, and I will do everything in my power to fix this situation for Glenn County." I don't think there's a whole lot you'll be able to do. Now, that said, other people kind of angry. In fact, you have 64-year-old Lisa Hill said of the closure, quote, "I'm more than disappointed. Every time I think about it, I want to cry my eyeballs out. They are shanking our community, our friends, our family. How much more are they going to strip us down to the bone if they feel like it?" I mean, that's the simple reality. And here's the thing. Who's shanking your community? Well, that would be Republicans. And you voted for it. Look, Donald Trump won Glenn County by 35 points. LaMalfa, as I mentioned, he voted for the big, beautiful bill that cut $1 trillion out of Medicaid. So if you were looking for who did this, you might want to look in a mirror. Glenn County is solid Republican. It ain't no purple district. Solid Republican. And now it is going to suffer under the effects of Republican policy. At the end of the day, you get what you voted for. You get the day you voted for. Now, I'm not saying that this makes me happy. I'm not happy. This is a tragedy. People will die. That hurts my heart. Really. Seriously. But you know what? It has to be said. It has to be said that yes, you invited this. You voted for it. And this is what happens. Elections do have consequences. And it's not like y'all didn't know what Donald Trump was all about. Okay? Did he lie about not touching Medicaid? Obviously. That lie was really, really easy to debunk, by the way. Because, well, based on his previous actions, he had already cut Medicaid in his first term. Now, it wasn't like direct cuts to benefits, right? But he did different cuts. For example, allowing states to do block grant waivers. Block granting is a way to cut Medicaid, okay? Not only that, but he eliminated financing options to pay for Medicaid and actually made it more difficult for people to qualify for the program. All of that has an impact on rural hospitals because the less, people qualify for benefits, the less gets used at these hospitals and the less money they make. And so these rural hospitals serve many, many Trump voters. So I think that they should have known, but they didn't. Or maybe they did and didn't care. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because they voted in the guy and the party that have long been looking for a way to strip healthcare from millions of people. You got what you voted for. The chickens have come home to roost. And there is nothing that we can do now about that. Republicans are running the entire federal government. And yes, you know what? The irony here is the shutdown that's going on right now. You have Democrats that are fighting to prevent health insurance from increasing in price by at least 75%, okay? And another one of their asks is to restore some of the cut Medicaid funding that Republicans cut out in order to give tax cuts for the rich. So they're actually fighting harder for low-income people, people in rural, areas, fighting for their health care much, much harder than Republicans are. Because Republicans aren't fighting at all to restore people's health care. They're fighting to cut people's health care. So, now look, the people in Glenn County, they could vote for Democrats, so they could go and restore that funding and prevent insurance from rising dramatically. They could give Democrats the House and the Senate, but I doubt any of these voters in Glenn County that are currently facing, the leopards, okay, the results of their own actions. I doubt that they will vote for Democrats at all. I think that they will still continue to vote for the same people that are currently shanking them. And that's probably the biggest tragedy of the whole situation. Okay. Like I said, it sucks. All right. Moving on here. Good old Mike Johnson. House Speaker Mike Johnson is getting pressure from his fellow Republicans to try to reach across the aisle and work with Democrats to prevent active duty soldiers from missing out on their paychecks. So now, Mike Johnson was on C-SPAN and taking calls from constituents, and Samantha here, who is a Republican, called in to beg him to do something. Take a look.
I have a husband who actively serves this country. He suffers from PTSD from his 2 tours in Afghanistan. If we see a lapse in pay come the 15th, my children do not get to get the medication that's needed for them to live their life, because we live paycheck to paycheck. I heard you earlier say that you side with President Trump on anything that he says. Well, I just read an article this morning that said he absolutely wholeheartedly believes that there needs to be legislation put in so that we do not miss a paycheck. You have the power to do that. And as a Republican, I'm very disappointed in my party, and I'm very disappointed in you, because you do have the power to call the House back. You did that, or you refused to do that just for a show. I am begging you to pass this legislation. My kids could die, and I think that it is awful, and the audacity of someone who makes 6 figures a year to do this to military families is insane.
Oh, damn. All right, so this is a Republican voter who's pissed that her party is not doing a damn thing to help her, okay? And so it kind of shows you that, yeah, you have Republicans out there that are not buying the narrative being spread by people like Mike Johnson that this is all the Democrats' fault. Remember, the Democrats did not vote for the continuing resolution because it does not extend the ACA tax credits, which, when they expire, will massively increase the cost of health insurance. So now Republicans, they didn't vote to extend them. They weren't even worried about this, okay, until now, okay? And so they didn't vote to extend them. They don't really care to extend them. In fact, their main priority, they have already achieved, which is to give tax cuts to the rich. That's the priority of Mike Johnson and the Republican Party. Always has been, by the way. Always has been. That said, Mike went on to say that, oh, yes, it's the Democrats' fault. Democrats are preventing you and your husband from getting paid. Okay. Not true, but all right. He hasn't even actually tried to put forward any standalone bill to try to pay the troops. Why would that be? Oh, it's a show bill, it'd never get passed. Have you tried? No, he hasn't. And that's probably because he's afraid the Democrats might support it, okay? And make his party look like they're the unreasonable ones, okay? Who shut down the government. Because Democrats actually want to fund healthcare. Not for illegals, undocumented immigrants, or anything like that. There's no undocumented person that gets a federal tax credit for the ACA, okay? No, this is for Americans. Republicans, they're lying about the shutdown, the reasons for it. They didn't try to do any bipartisanship at all leading up to this deadline, and that's on purpose, I believe. Maybe they thought the Democrats will fold like they usually do. Let's be honest about that. Or maybe Johnson was spooked over the recent push to release the Epstein files. And if the government is open, then he's going to have to swear in Adelita Grijalva, who is the 218th signature on the discharge petition to release the Epstein files. Something that maybe Republicans and Donald Trump are not too keen on seeing happen anytime soon. I mean, Trump's not exactly railing against the shutdown. I mean, yes, he's still attacking Democrats over it, while then also saying, but I will make a deal with them on healthcare, but, you know, then I actually won't because you got to open the government first and all that. Look, at the end of the day, I don't think he's all that upset that this was delayed. Okay. Now, that said, Johnson was asked about the shutdown, and he said that it is Chuck Schumer and the Democrats that hold all the cards. On that, on swearing in Adelita Grijalva. Now, Chuck Schumer is leader of the Senate Democrats, okay, the minority leader, but still the leader of the Senate Democrats. Adelita Grijalva was elected to a House seat, okay, so in order to have her sworn in, all Mike Johnson would have to do is call a pro forma session. That's it. And he's done it before, okay? That's all you would have to do. Oh, pro forma, in session. All right, swearing you in? Okay, you're sworn in. Now we can go home. Okay, that's it. That's it. He's, again, done it before for Republicans that won their special elections. I wonder what's different here. Oh, right. Yes, that's right. Now, he was finally asked what the Republican plan was to fix the Affordable Care Act. He answered, great question. No, there's more to it. Now, he said, although his answer didn't really answer anything, it was just pretty empty. Let me read it to you. Quote, there's a lot of improvement that's needed. Obamacare did not do what was promised. We've got to fix that. Republicans are the party that have the ideas to do that. Okay, where are they? I haven't seen any ideas come out on how to fix the ACA. I've seen a lot of repeal and replace. I mean, that was back during the first Trump administration. And since then, we haven't really seen any ideas from Republicans on how to do anything, right? How to fix any of that. But anyway, and there is problems with the ACA, obviously. But there are no solutions with the Republicans. Okay. He added, hey, this law is very, very complicated. And it cannot be torn out at the roots. Okay. Well, so at least there's an admission here that, yeah, we can't do what what the Republicans had previously spent years railing about doing, which is, you know, pulling out and repealing Obamacare. That's what they campaigned on for years since its passage. And now they're, we can't actually get rid of it now. Oh, okay. Okay. Quite a different stance there. Now, funny enough, talking about that, there was a plan. The Republicans did have a plan back then that ended up being so unpopular with voters when they found out about it that Republicans were like, yeah, we can't do that. Which means they're left with no plan. They have no plan. Obviously, no plan to replace the ACA because they're not even trying to do that anymore. But no plan to fix it either. They have really painted themselves into a corner here. And now the only thing they could do about any of that is either give in, for example, to extend the tax credits, or lie about it. And well, so far, you can see what they've done, which is basically the latter. Yeah, that's right. They're still working on them concepts of a plan. That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. let's move on here. Let's talk about Ice Barbie. That's right. She's banking up them frequent liar miles there. Okay. If you find yourself sitting at an airport during this government shutdown, be prepared to see none other than Kristi Noem's face all over the TV. That's right. Ice Barbie herself is now starring in Trump airport propaganda. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. It is TSA's top priority to make sure that you have the most pleasant and efficient airport experience as possible while we keep you safe. However, Democrats in Congress refuse to fund the federal government, and because of this, many of our operations are impacted, and most of our TSA employees are working without pay. We will continue to do all that we can to avoid delays that will impact your travel. And our hope is that Democrats will soon recognize the importance of opening the government.
Now, that is one hell of a way to scare people before flight. Seeing Kristi Noem. Yikes. But no, seriously though. That was some pretty obvious Fox News propaganda. Using federal resources, by the way. I mean, it's pretty dystopian, right? But it is funny how it is, apparently the Democrats' fault when they hold absolutely none of the levers of power, while Republicans have a trifecta, and have used that power to ram through tax cuts for the rich, Medicaid cuts, food stamp cuts. Hell, they even used nuclear option on Donald Trump nominees last month so that they could pass them all through, about 48 of them, with a simple majority. Yeah, but somehow Democrats hold all the cards here. No, here's the thing. Right now, Republicans are interestingly not, at all interested in getting rid of the filibuster, which is one way they could actually pass a continuing resolution. Yes, it's the nuclear option, right? Get rid of the filibuster, and then Republicans could have a simple majority vote to fund the government. Now, there are several reasons, I guess, why they can't do that or refuse to do that. John Thune's talking about, no, we're not going to do the nuclear option. They probably don't have enough votes on their side in order to get a simple majority vote, because you've got, the people on their side that don't actually want to fund the government at all. And so wouldn't vote for a continuing resolution. Again, there's some dissent in the ranks on the Republican side, right? But, if they manage to do that, then they could do the nuclear option, pass the CR with a simple majority. But if they did do that, well, then they would lose their ability to blame Democrats. And then, of course, when the House reopens, then there would be nothing to stop the Epstein files from getting released as well, as they have enough votes for that. So I guess the administration is pretty much stuck with lying and gaslighting the American people into, trying to, believe that it's not our fault that the government closed down. No, it's the Democrats. Now, yes, they voted against the CR. But why? Why? Because they're fighting to extend the tax credits for about 20 million people who get health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. Without the tax credits, their health insurance costs will jump at least 75%. At least. That would be a complete disaster. Okay? Young people would be priced out. They would drop out of the exchanges because they're younger and healthier and like, this ain't worth it. Right? I don't actually need it right now. And which would leave older, less healthy people in that system. And their prices would go up. They'd get priced out. And then you get a death spiral with the ACA. So now Republicans, they could do a deal with Democrats to extend the credits. They could roll back the changes to Medicaid, for example, and put the $1 trillion back into Medicaid over 10 years. which, by the way, would be good for Republican voters. Would be good for rural hospitals, okay? Because right now, rural voters and hospitals are just getting absolutely devastated by the cuts that were inside of Trump's big, beautiful bill. But they're not going to do that. Instead, they choose to lie and claim that Democrats are only doing this so we could fund illegal aliens, health care. Oh, yes. Which is pretty hilarious, right? Democrats don't even support Medicare for all Americans. What makes you think that they would want to give it to undocumented immigrants who are already barred by law from getting federal benefits? If you believe what they're selling, I got a Trump Bible to sell you, or a whole truckload of them. Okay, but look, here's the thing. We know Republicans are lying about this, but the video here, and this isn't the first, example of using federal resources to send messages to their workers the Democrats' political messages. It feels like a Hatch Act violation. It feels like this entire administration is just constantly violating the Hatch Act, which nothing, of course, will happen to them. But they're still doing it. They're still doing it, okay? Because remember, I did a story probably last week or earlier this week where you have government agencies that have been plastering their websites with banners that are blaming Democrats for the shutdown. That said, Republicans don't care. They're doing propaganda, and they're sticking it in the airports so that all the angry travelers, who are delayed, are going to have someone to blame that is Republicans. I mean, since Monday, more than 20,000 flights have been delayed, including 4,600 on Thursday alone, while around 13,000 air traffic controllers and 50,000 TSA agents keep showing up to work but are not getting paid for it. They're hoping, I guess, that these propaganda videos will work on those people. But funny enough, who paid for the propaganda video? Somebody had to, right? Where'd they find that money? I don't know. But again, anyway, I don't really feel like Republicans plan on ending the shutdown anytime soon because the ball is in their court. In fact, they're pretty mad that Trump seemed to have been undercutting them. At least earlier this week, Trump had said, oh, yeah, no, I'm willing to cut the right deal with Democrats to fund, the ACA, the tax credits. Yeah, I could do that. He then walked it back later on, because of course he does. But the damage was already done. It was already done. One unnamed Republican senator said of Trump, quote, he just muddied the waters for us, for sure. Now, the Democrats, they think we're wobbling. It doesn't help this week. Oh, sad. Another said that this was an opening for Democrats. Well, now they're actually not going to fold like we expected them to. Damn it! Well, there you go. Look, obviously there is one way to end this, and that's for the Republicans to come together with the Democrats and vote to prevent health insurance costs from exploding. That's got to be part of the CR. You can't just vote to reopen the government and expect Republicans to honor any deal that they made beforehand. Okay? Oh, yeah, no, go ahead. If you open the government, then we'll give you what you want. And then here comes the rug pull. Oh, did we make you a promise to extend the ACA stuff? You idiots. Oh, no, we're not going to do that. I would not expect Republicans to honor their word because there is no honor among thieves. So, yeah, this is going to continue, okay? And I say, Democrats, stick to your guns, okay? For once. Stick to your guns, stay the course, and do not give in. They've actually got the leverage for once, and they need to continue to use it. Okay. One more story for y'all before we wrap up the show. And that's good old Tommy Tuberville. All right. Senator Tommy Tuberville says, freedom of religion for me, but not for thee.
What gives them the right, Alex, to go out in the middle of the street in a lot of these big cities and do their prayer? You got a mosque, go to your mosque. You don't do that in your countries. Only you do it where you want to, as you said earlier, you want to mark your ground. And that's what they're doing. They're taking over slowly but surely. We have to fight back. Sharia law needs to be banned in this country. And if we don't do it, we're going to lose the United States of America to a bunch of people coming over here that want to kill us. Now, socialist communists, that's who lets it happen, and we got to stop it. And people just need to wake up and understand we're a great country that believes in freedom and believes in immigration, but not people that want to come here, not go by our laws and our Constitution. And every day they dream about either raping our people or killing our people. And that's got to stop.
Whoa. Okay, hold on here. This is out of control. People praying in public? Wait, I thought you were in favor of religion. Oh, wait, of course. Just yours. That's right. I got it. What gives them the right? Well, that would be the First Amendment. You know, First Amendment, Constitution. I know you only understand what the second is, the second one, but there are a lot of amendments here. Okay, you should probably read up on it. You know, freedom of religion, it's kind of a thing that we have here. But apparently only for him, but not for Muslims. Look, Tommy Tuberville obviously seems to hate Muslims. I mean, he keeps like talking about, we got to stop Sharia law. You do realize that under, once again, the First Amendment to the Constitution, Sharia law would also not be allowed. It's, it states right in there, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, which again would apply to Islam as well as Christianity, Judaism, all the religions, right? But also, it also says, or prohibit the free exercise thereof. Tommy, you are trying to prevent Muslims from enacting their, having their First Amendment rights. You're preventing them from doing those things, from praying, because that is part of their religion. You are subverting the Constitution, brother. The very thing that you claim that the Muslims want to do, who are just lawfully following the tenets of their own religion, which requires them, yes, to pray at certain parts of the day, no matter what they're at, what they're doing, where they're at, they stop and face Mecca and start praying, pull out the rug and there you go. I mean, is it annoying? It could be, possibly, yes. I certainly wouldn't want to do that. That's why I'm not a Muslim, okay? But that said, if you are, I don't care that you do this. It doesn't affect me at all. Do you? That's your right under the Constitution. But I love how he said, you know what? It's the socialists and communists that are allowing the Muslims to pray publicly. What? Again, it's the Constitution, okay? The First Amendment. But the other thing is, I thought that the big problem with communists, according to the right wing, or I should say one of the problems, is that, they're godless. Godless communists. Okay, but if they're godless communists, then why would they ally with the Muslims, the Muslim, extremists, right? Why would they ally with them then? That never made sense to me. The entire allegation here. Okay, it doesn't make sense. It never has. Okay, but okay. Finally, he said that these people, I'm in favor of immigration, but these people that are coming in, they dream of raping and murdering our people. What? What are you talking about? Look, I honestly, personally know a few people who are Muslim. Okay, and they're perfectly lovely people. All right. They've never tried to convert me. certainly never tried to murder me. Okay. And I'm not saying that there isn't an issue with fundamentalist Islamic extremism. There is. But you know what? There's also a problem with fundamentalist right-wing Christianity. It's almost as if fundamentalist religion of all stripes is the real problem here. I mean, and by the way, speaking of, Islamic extremism, you realize that actually hurts Muslims more so than anyone else. They're often the targets, okay, of Islamic extremism, okay? That very small minority of Islamic extremists have actually done a lot of damage to other Muslims across the world. Again, most of the victims are Muslim. So, I mean, come on. This is just more obvious rampant Islamophobia from a right-wing Christian zealot who, believes in, obviously, Christian nationalism, and is even called to get rid of the separation of church and state. Once again, First Amendment, right? Here in America, and install Christian religious rule. So, little ironic. Okay. And there you go. Comment here. Wait till he finds out that freedom also entails atheism. Oh my God. Literally. Oh my God.
Can't let that happen.
Oh, what are you doing? Can't let that happen. Oh, it's fascinating. Just so the pretzels that these people will tie themselves up into, to obviously while promoting their, Christian nationalism, while railing against Sharia law, creeping Sharia even. Ooh, oh, that sounds scary, except that it's not real. Okay, it's certainly not creeping here in the United States. All right. Total insanity. But it is what it is. Tommy. I don't know what else to say, man. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching the show. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Subscribe for new videos, of course. You stream almost daily. Been a little off this week, but should be 5 days from now on for the most part. So tune in 2 p.m. Eastern right here, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, all the usual partners, and join the show, join the conversation, like and share, leave a comment, check out the videos, and consider becoming a supporter of independent progressive media. Obviously, we do need your help here. Funding, very sparse. So if you can join up, for the price of a cup of coffee a month, I'd appreciate it. Patreon.com/jeffwaldorf, or hit the join button below to become a member. So, and of course, there are other ways on Facebook or on Twitch to support the show as well. So please do that. Consider doing that if you're able to, and support, again, independent media. Very, very important these days. All right. So, especially with everything going on, all right. And with that said, thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Have a great weekend. See you back here on Monday.